Thank you so much for having us on the show.
Hi, nice to see you.
Thank you. And I wanted to start with a short introduction. Can you introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah, we'll start with Hollie.
Hi, I'm Hollie. I'm from Taiwan. Now I am the CGO of Manifesto, taking care of staff engagement, consumer engagement, and also the revenue. I'm from Taiwan. It's a tropical island surrounded by mountains and ocean, and the people who knows make awesome food and kick ass semiconductor chips.
Absolutely. We have some people from Taiwan in Wings for You and love the place. Thank you.
That's awesome. Yes. And I have been spent my 12 years in digital marketing and partnership. Lately, I'm into reading books, candle making, aromatherapy, and also grow my team together. Yes.
Perfect.
And I'm Martin Barry. I'm the CEO of Manifesto. I am from New York City. I was born in Manhattan. I spent most of my childhood in the suburbs outside New York. New York, as most of you know, is a place known for good pizza and hot dogs. But we also are known as the melting pot of the world, which I think is important in the way in which I approach kind of cultural diversity and lifestyle of our business. And my background is, well, I've got a degree in business, a degree in history, also a master's in landscape architecture and urbanism. So I spent like 10 years of my life creating spaces around the world for mostly public space and civic architecture in 15 different countries before I arrived in Czech Republic. And I think that's probably about it. I'm an Irish Catholic from New York City with a family of 6, and so lots of different influences on my life.
Amazing. I read your bio. I think we can have another talk show which goes for like more than 1 hour to just talk about your different experiences. But what I would love to ask you is to explain the concept of Manifesto, because it is my favorite go-to place in Prague. And I actually found out about it from my Singaporean friend who flew to Prague and said like, hey, we've got to check out this cool place in Prague. I was like, how do you know? I was like, okay. And we went, and I was just surprised how the place looked, how it smelled, how it felt, the customer experience. Like, I just felt like I'm actually in the middle of the melting pot, like bit of part of New York surrounded by different foods and flavors. So I just wanted to let you know my first experience with Manifesto, but all of our people are not from Prague, and I know you're building a new one in Berlin, but if you can let us know what Manifesto is and how did you come with this great idea?
Yeah, I'm really happy to hear about your Singaporean friend, because we haven't done a lot of work on that, on trying to get people from abroad or tourists or something. So the fact that the word is spreading organically as far as Singapore it's really heartwarming to hear. I think Hollie will add probably more insightful comments about what we are, but from my perspective, I think what we decided to do as owners is we both are not from here, right? Hollie's from Taipei. She lived in Tokyo a long time. She lived in New York. I'm from New York City. And so when we were here, we're sort of missing something like that felt a bit international and kind of a mix of cuisines all in one place. I personally have fallen in love with markets around the world. So I've visited markets from like Kuala Lumpur and Singapore, London to Seattle and San Francisco to Mexico City and the Yucatan. And so I've been to markets all over the world. And when I wanted to kind of apply my thinking of how do you create a better city and specifically how do you create better spaces in better cities, I thought like, well, I know quite a lot about these places and I think they could be done a little bit better than what I've seen. So maybe we should try, let's try that on and see if we can create a place that feels like your friend from Singapore felt, or that maybe you felt that when you come to this place, you kind of feel alive, you feel like you're part of an international vibe and scene, and just really simply food and entertainment or culture is a really good way to bring folks together. And so that's kind of where we came from in developing the concept of the business. Maybe Hollie wants to add something to that.
When Martin told me that he wanted to do this market idea, that the first moment I say yes. The reason is for Asian culture, when we greet, we don't say how are you, but we say have you eaten?
I love that. I love that.
We want to make sure the guests and our friends and people who we love, they always, have enough food. So when he says about this, I'm like, I'm in. So let's do it. And also, if you watch many of the Asian famous movie, every relationship is start from sit down and having a nice meal. So we think about this market, it's a perfect idea to bring people together. Yeah. So that's how it happened.
Perfect. Love it. Thank you for bringing that to Prague. And now you're going to bring it to Berlin and hopefully to many other different locations. I saw you guys' teams are growing your team, so I'm a big fan. So crossing fingers.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think that's a good point. That like the other thing we realized about this business is immediately when we started it, I came to Manifesto with a friend who's in the investment community, and I said this. I think it was the second day we were open at the first location, and I looked around and I said, I think we have something here which is scalable. I don't see any reason why we couldn't have 1,000 of these places.
Yep.
And maybe more. And so that from that moment on, actually, I needed to work with Hollie to make it scalable.
You make a perfect couple. Me and my husband, we also are business partners. So we've been creating our company Wings for You for 15 years, side by side. So it's pretty amazing to have a person next to each other who supports you no matter what.
That's awesome. So you know the best. Yeah, so that's how I joined in. I bring in the ideas of tech and ideas of sales and marketing strategy, and also the ideas of the team engagement into the company, just to think how we can run more efficiently, and also be able to scale up.
Amazing. Martin, and one of the things which I read about you, this is how I found you on the blog, was that you had such a powerful statement in your article on Manifesto about how it all started that it really touched my heart. And I just want to quote you and I would like to get more into this topic, that you said, I care what my project can bring to the society. I prefer value to profit. What did you mean by this? Or can you talk to me about this concept?
That sounds rather insightful for me. No, I think the both of us, I think we've been, I worked for a pretty high-powered architecture firm in New York for almost 10 years, and we worked for some of the big clients and developers around the world, right? Hollie worked for Google and Yahoo and some of the big media companies in the world. So we've both been in the kind of corporate world. One of the things that I also ran conferences in my past about making cities better places to live. And one of the things I loved that one of the speakers said, which was so true, which is a complete opposite of what you're asking me, which he said, the reason why New York City works is because the religion of New York is money. And so just to give you the context of where I come from, right? I come from the center of capitalism and free market, more or less the center of the free market. At least that's how we see it as New Yorkers. And so that's the background, right? And when we started Manifesto, we thought yeah, of course this has to be a profitable business, and we happen to be doing it and we happen to be in a segment and we're doing it well enough where our business is highly profitable. And so we want to make it profitable only if we can take that and reinvest it in the consumer and reinvest it in our customer. And so we're driving, I think, a lot of the efficiencies and everything only so that we can kind of give it back to the people that are visiting and make that experience more resonant and more valuable for them. And at the same time, that's more like the business dynamics, right? At the same time, this is a purpose-driven group of brands and a purpose-driven organization, in that we really feel that when Manifesto puts our foot down, in a neighborhood, we're doing it not just to kind of bring people together. Will be true in Berlin, is that we think the value that we add has a ripple effect. Manifesto kind of drops into a neighborhood or a community, And we really feel like the ripple should resonate throughout or spread throughout the community. So we become kind of an epicenter or magnet of culture and community that affects people's lives in a real way. We employ, I think, 300 plus people through Manifesto, our own team, and through the chefs and businesses that are operating there. And so, it's a relatively big impact in a community, I think. And so that's really important for us, that when we wake up in the morning, we're doing this not just to kind of have this highly efficient business model, but because we know that we're putting smiles on people's faces, that's hopefully making people's lives better. Hollie's, I think, has a few comments on more like anecdotal comments on how this is impactful.
If you want to ask me what is the most memorable image that I have with Manifesto, it's a grandpa handhold with the grandmom together. They walk slowly on the Smithhoff wooden deck into Manifesto, and they sit down, they enjoy the sunshine, and then order a frozen margarita and share together.
Oh, okay, that's pretty anecdotal. Beautiful. I can see the picture.
Hollie told me this
took
story,
a
my heart
picture.
almost broke,
Yes, I told Martin on that day, I said, we're doing the right thing. We're providing a safe place for people who love each other, who love their friends, and bring them together and eat in the nice environment. So I told him we're doing the right thing, putting the smiles on the people and the consumer, and then we invested on the environment that they enjoy. So yes, this is our motivation, what pushes us to encounter the challenges and solve it and make sure we are moving to the experience-driven marketplace.
One of the similar stories is I remember having a kind of Latin vibes DJ at the market one day, and we had a very diverse crowd was there as usual, kind of community neighborhood, probably a few tourists, etc. So a lot of diversity, and in that diversity was an older woman, another grandma, like probably in her 70s, like shaking her booty to the Latin vibes, And like I was like, oh my god,
in Czech Republic, where people don't shake the booty so much.
Exactly, especially that generation. So we thought, like, again, like this kind of moment kind of really softens your heart and says, okay, like we need to invest in more of this, more of this feeling. That's what we want. We're investing in a feeling that not just that we have, but that we want the guests to have when they come to Manifesto.
I think this is the value which you bring to the stakeholders, which you were talking about in your blog as well, right? These are the people. It's not the shareholders, but the stakeholders who are actually your consumers, your customers.
Yeah, listen, we're only going to create shareholder value if we can create stakeholder value. And those stakeholders are the customers, and I should say also the businesses that operate there. If those businesses aren't happy and they're not profitable, then this place means nothing for us, because we want the businesses that are operating there to improve their livelihood and their models, and we want them to be offering value to the guests. And so we really think it's all tied together. And if it's working for the businesses that operate there, then it's probably going to be working for the guests. And then the shareholders will have value. We're convinced about that.
Love it. Love it. And I just wanted to ask you, what does it bring to you personally to create such a purpose-driven business? Like, Hollie, you talked about Asians and food and the market. I could already see the families doing that. You talked about your experience being from New York, which is, as you said, right? Religion is money there. And if you make it in New York, you can make it anywhere, as the song goes. But like, you came here, you created something beautiful, now you're growing it. But why? Why not just money, profit-based businesses? I think you touched based on it before, like regarding the corporate world, but I'm just trying to dig in deeply, like why you guys are doing what you're doing.
It's a good question.
Hard to talk about that without not to talk about other businesses, but like, you can certainly create a highly profitable business model, creating and selling NFTs or being in the virtual world, right? Buying real estate in the virtual world and creating a virtual food hall or something. And so that will bring some, some happiness probably to some folks, but there's so many problems that we're encountering in the real world. And from a very early age, like I've been interested in the real world and how do we kind of create, how do we create our own environment, which makes our lives a little bit happier. And, for me, it started a bit with my other work and kind of talking about how to make cities better and doing that through media and events, through Recite, my nonprofit activities. And what we always talked about there and what we believe at Manifesto too, because it's in the DNA of Manifesto, is that, we find everyone cares about the city they just or the place that they live. And they sometimes just don't know how to talk about it because they haven't been trained in that. But like, if you talk to a dad or a mom who's, brought their kid to school and, they've encountered an aggressive driver or they had a tough time crossing the street, they've become an urbanist in some way by talking about that and saying like, oh, it's hard to cross the street with my kid. There was no bike lanes for us to ride the bike on. And so they start to talk about how, they're already talking about how to improve the place in which they live. And there's so many challenges in the physical city, in the physical world, that not enough companies are spending money and time on. Cities don't have enough resources to improve them, or they don't have the knowledge to improve them. So if from a business, if we can be part of that story and creating a better environment for people, then we will. And if you look at two of the biggest places we've built so far, they're created so far in Smíchov and also in Florence, in Prague. Both those environments were really shitty.
Yeah, like dangerous. Like you didn't want to walk there. It was like a spooky place to pass next to. Yeah. Yeah,
and if you go back to in 2018 before we built Florence, it was like that. It was a place with needles and garbage bags everywhere and weird people hanging out. It smelled like urine in the air, all around that place. And then all of a sudden one day we in the snap of a finger, we open this place and we've improved a pretty big segment of the center of the city where over 2 million people visited in kind of 2.5-3 seasons. That's with COVID. And Andiel is proving to be the same. We've seen, I think, over or near 100,000 guests in the first month we operated. A place that probably never saw 100,000 people on that site. And so that alone starts to bring fresh eyes and a fresh look at this part of the city, which is a big improvement, I think, for the people that are living around and that travel past that place every day. That for us is like, that resonates as being impactful, I think, and it's a personal reason why I like to do what we do. Aside from all the fun business things we're doing and scaling and technology and, all these other issues, that for me is important. I want to continue to try to figure out how to do that. Whereas most of our sites in the future should really try to do that, to try to make a kind of positive impact on the physical environment, because I can't stress enough that there's so many challenges in the real world that people don't spend enough time fixing, right? Where now a lot of people are investing in the virtual world, which is fine. But I fail to see how it brings value to people's real lives.
So if you can sum it up in one sentence, what would it be for you?
I like lots of sentences when I explain things. I mean, it sounds a bit cliche or shallow, but it's about improving people's lives in the real world. Bringing smiles to people's faces. That's what we care about.
Love it. I think it sums it up perfectly. Thank you. Thank you. And Hollie, do you have something to add for your part of your story?
I agree with what Martin mentioned, and then also like we brought up before, putting smiles on people. I'm a mom of a 4.5-year-old. I constantly think how I'm able to, create a space also safe for my little son.
Mhm.
And also we have a dog. She's 4 years old as well, like a family and a dog friendly space. So now Manifesto is such a place that welcome, all the kids and the pets. Yes. And then on the other hand is we're also thinking how to help those chefs. Most of our restaurants who are in the Manifesto Market, they are family business or smaller scale business. They just started. So Manifesto provide them a low cost for entry and then higher profitability when they do the business. And then what we're trying to do is a data-driven approach to show them the business and then discover the insight, discover the opportunity, and also helping them optimize their menu and just trying to help the business become more scalable. Yeah, so it's not only the place for consumer, also the place for young entrepreneur.
Love it. Love it. You guys are doing amazing things. Thank you so much. Thank you. And I was just thinking that if we have a bit more minutes, because I think I got whatever I wanted from my Represent Profit show, but we are also, this show is also about expecting miracles. So I think you guys are the brave souls who are creating miracles as we go. But also now the world is such a strange place with Ukraine being so close to us and close to our hearts. I know you guys are engaged in many, many activities as well. Does this affect your work and life being in Prague here with this Ukrainian war? What's going on? I just wanted to ask you because I know you're helping people to find accommodation. How is that for you?
Yeah, we're doing even a bit more than that. Holly will explain what we're also doing in the business. But personally, I think both of us were probably, I speak for Holly as well. We were both personally impacted and inspired by what we saw in the early days of the crisis and when the Russians invaded Ukraine. It was kind of shocking for me. I tend to be like a personally following geopolitics, and it's like one of my pet interests. I love this kind of thing, at least following how the world is moving and geopolitical issues. And so I was kind of following this for a long time and I was personally affected by it when I visited Kiev in 2014 after the revolution at Maidan. In my history, I've been followed by Russian agents in Moscow. So I have some personal issues around this crisis. And so I was kind of like really pissed off personally. And then we were inspired by our Czech friends and colleagues who several of our colleagues remember when Russian tanks came into Prague in 1968. And so, when I started thinking about this, I was like, God, it was Poland in 1933. It was Berlin in 1948. It was Budapest in 1958. It was Prague in 68. Like, these people are terrorizing Europe. And here it's happening right next door in a place that I loved and visited many times in Ukraine. And so we were inspired by all the actions that Czechs took, and Holly and I think in the first couple of days we felt a little bit behind, like, oh gosh, like, what can we do? And we weren't really in the best position, like in those weeks to kind of jump forward and do something. So we caught up quickly, and yeah, we're helping, I think, eight people right now with apartments, short term, and now actually just in 15 minutes we're going to sign a 1-year deal on an apartment for at least 2 or 3 families to stay in. And so, yeah, I think we were mostly inspired by Czech people because I think it's so close to your hearts. With what's happened in the past. And yeah, a couple things in the business that we're trying to do as well.
Like Martin said, we were behind, but by observing what Czech people are doing, it's really fascinating. Some people drove the car and buses to the border, picked up refugees coming to the country.
Our team as well, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, and then all kinds of donation, all kinds of shelters, and then that brings us to think what we can do. So the first thing I'm like, okay, many people are doing, the steps in the front. So how about we try to create jobs opportunity? So that's how we put together and list down what's the opportunity that we have, and talk to our HR and release them the opportunities. And then we also think about, we heard from the teammates that if I hire Ukrainian people, the first challenges that we're encountering is the language barrier. So we're thinking, okay, how we are able to minimize the language barrier. Maybe we can give them the opportunity to start their own business. So they could build up the community, they can hire their own people and then communicate in Ukrainian or Russian. That would be a good opportunity for them. So now we have a project. We're gonna rent it out, one of the container unit, 6 months free rent, and then also the fit out for the kitchen to help them the Ukrainian concept to start the business by hiring their own people. And then for the first day, we received over 10 interest in our email box. Yes, and also some of our Ukrainian colleagues, they were asking, can they also start their business, trying to help. Yeah, so now we are in the process of making this come true.
I'm gonna so much cross fingers that this will happen. This will be so amazing. You
It
guys
will happen actually today. I think of those 10 concepts, now today we're being presented with the short list of top 3, which our team has selected. And Monday we'll make a decision and we'll hand over the unit as soon as the restaurant is ready. So we have, like, for one example is like one of the ambassadors reached out to me. I think they saw one of my posts or something and said, hey, like, I know this very talented chef. He owns 2 restaurants in Odessa and he's just arrived with his family and he needs somewhere to work. So he just submitted a concept this morning with 3 types of Ukrainian cuisines and wants us to help him to refine it.
Oh my God, now I have goosebumps. This is amazing.
This will happen. There's no question. And the reason why it can happen is because we're giving up one of our own units. We have a business that's operating there 12 months a year. We have a partnership with one of the kind of great brands in the world that we're probably going to have to change because we want to basically offer value to a business that needs it more than we do. So we're going to give up our units to them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much. You are doing so much. I'm so impressed and so amazed. I'm super happy you ended up, by whatever coincidence, in Prague and that you started this. It feels like a new chapter also in your lives, from corporate worlds, from different parts of the world here in Prague, and you're now going to spread your wings around the world. And I'm just like the biggest fan with, I think, millions of others. So just wishing you all the best.
It means a lot to us, and we really appreciate you kind of taking the time to focus on this and this kind of issue and these kinds of inspirations, because, well, we're not doing this to be an inspiration, right? We're just doing it because we really believe in it. And we think, as I said before, that if we do it well, we want to be one of the great brands in the world. And, we want people to talk about us from Singapore to Seattle as being, the place where not only can you come and have a great meal and live in a great community where we are, but also a bunch of great businesses that will have started because we've tried to help them with this kind of low cost approach, and so low cost, high profitability approach. And so that if we do that well, we really believe that, hopefully right here in Prague, we're going to grow one of the great brands in the world.
Yay! Thank you. And just last comment I want to share with you. I just started this journey maybe a month and a half ago, and I'm interviewing entrepreneurs who are profit and who are purpose driven. And one of the things which I see as a pattern, like none of them see themselves as an inspiration or a hero. Like everybody's just like, I'm just being myself. I'm doing what's needed. This is it. Like, it just makes sense. We want to do, like, when I see something, I do something. But these are the essence of the stories which I'm trying to capture. Like, it's more about the being of the people rather than what they are doing, but just like showing that, like, living from this place, it just makes everybody's lives better, including, I think, yours, but the communities and the world. And slowly this can just shift.
It's totally true. And I think the other, we're also just doing what feels natural to us. And as we've been in other types of businesses, we've learned, of course, like what we want to do and what we don't want to do. And at the same time, hiring in Prague is not easy for lots of businesses. And what we've found is, like, our purpose-driven approach makes it pretty easy to recruit because, the job, the people seeking jobs particularly those that want to work with for us, they tend to have the same values and the same kind of purpose-driven approach, and they don't want to just work for another corporation, et cetera. So they might not want to take the risk of founding their own kind of purpose-driven business, but they want to work for one for sure. And so it's not why we're doing it, but we found actually we're finding some really great people, because Hollie and I are the ones that get to go out there and talk about the business, and and we're owners, but the people that work with us are unbelievable, and they're super talented, and they care about a lot about what they're doing and what we're doing. And so that's really inspiring for us, in fact, like that we've built a kind of really good group of people. I hesitate to call that a family, because I don't, this is business, and a lot of people make the mistake of calling their employees their family, but we do believe like we're creating a great culture here, and it's mostly because of the great people that are joining us.
And I loved your quote again. I just wrote it like being an entrepreneur with an E it's not about the I. It's about I think you were saying, it's about the we, the team which you created around you.
It really is true. It's like I have a lot of limitations. Hollie doesn't have as many, but I have a lot of limitations, and I know that I need much smarter people around me than I am. So my mantra and in our handbook is, always hire someone that's smarter than you. And so we've got a bunch of those people. They're probably not smarter than Hollie, but they're definitely smarter than me.
No, they're smarter than me, of course. That's the benchmark for hiring.
Guys, thank you so much. Wish you lots of luck. It was a privilege to talk to you. Hope to see you sometimes, maybe in Manifesto. I'll come and say bye for sure, or hello if I pass by. So thanks a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, we're really excited by this opportunity. We love that you've done this, and anytime you want to do that again, like we're happy to talk to you about what we're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Let me know when you visit Manifesto.
Perfect. I'll shoot you an email or a note through LinkedIn.
Yes, please.